Okay. Well, what do I do like that? Oh, Carolyn is sleeping right now. And hey, Chris. And let's see. Yeah, she is seriously sleeping. Let me turn this down. Okay. So I wanted to. No, I wish I knew songs. I don't know any songs. Um, I wanted to jump on the 4S Sanctuary stream, but I couldn't make it in time. Um, okay, so the way that this went. Um, Anne's father's in the hospital again, and he had a. It's very complicated. We don't really know what's going to happen right now. So that happened a couple days ago. um, so we don't really know what's going to happen with the situation exactly. Could be. It doesn't look good, I guess is the best I can say it. So she's at the hospital right now, and then Carolyn is sleeping. Now I don't really have a topic in mind, but I have time, and maybe if you guys want to, just tell me what to do, I guess. I watched. Let's see. I watched Neil share his story about his family. That was very touching. Watched that this morning. And then I watched Olsen do the Rando with Ryan, and I really like Olsen as a rando technician. He's really good at that, and he has like laughter, which is really good. Could Olsen be the next PBK? Because that's really like that is kind of like that's the key. That's the key. The laughter. Yeah, and being a great listener is also, or at least being able to display being a good listener is important. Yeah, he has Randese. Randese. He speaks Randese. Then I got to be on the world famous Chris Howard show this morning. That was very good, I think. And Anybody cooking? Anything like this sort of thing happening? Oh, dude. Yes, that's a very good movie. Is anybody else familiar with Little Monsters of Fred Savage fame? 1989, I think. And there's a reason why 1989 sticks in my mind. It's actually a very important kind of formative year in my mental memory palace. It's an oddly joyful time in my life. It might be, but I was 6 years old in 1989. And probably I was 5 years old and 6 years old in 1989. There's a really great podcast if anybody's interested in like listening to good stuff that's out on that information ocean. The podcast is called Memory Palace, The Memory Palace, and that was a podcast that Ann had introduced me to. And this is when I first discovered about the Memory Palace podcast was, I think the name is Anthony DeMaio or something. I think that's the guy that produces it. But he does like these, takes these very interesting stories from history, whether they're people or kind of well-known instances of their time that were once very well known and then just kind of been forgotten through time. And he researches them, and then he does he writes up this whole thing. It's very much in the style of like any kind of literature, and he performs the reading of it, and then he adds in like music and the whole gamut, and that's just a great production. I really love that podcast. But I'm not into much podcasts. I never really have been. But I'm into things that people I care for dearly suggest. And usually it's interesting how like the people that we love and care about have an impact on the things that we like and care about. Ben. Dude. Hi, Ben. That was a very weird set of chords and stuff. So yeah, 1989 for me. I was living in Salinas, California. This is right before we moved. I think we moved to. I think we moved to Prunedale, California, just after. No. We still lived in Salinas, and I got to text this guy quick. Had to stay home with Carolyn. Not Carlton, Carolyn. Oh, Lynn. 2 nights. Sorry, bub. Usually I have a previously scheduled engagement that I keep on Thursday nights. Anyhow, we were living in Salinas, California. I don't know the street name, but I remember in a pretty, I think it can be a pretty vivid image if I really kind of like walk into the house. I can see the house. My mom was working at Supercuts at the time, over by the Salinas Fairgrounds. I'm sure it wasn't called Salinas Fairgrounds. It must have been whatever county that is. Salinas is in the valley in California where they grow much of our nation's, maybe even much of the world's vegetables. Yeah, Salinas by Monterey. Yeah. So there's a rodeo ground, like a fairgrounds. It's right there, and next to that, there's it may even be part of the whole county fairgrounds there. But they had I remember I saw an orchestra played in that kind of a little arena. I went there as a kid with school, and that was my first my first conscious experience of seeing live music, and it was like a full orchestra, and I remember that having an impact on me. And but they also had rodeos there. I've seen a rodeo there. I've seen the monster trucks there. And that was basically, there's a shopping center that's right there. And in that shopping center was Supercuts. And they also had a comic book store. And then at that time, I think Bud, or that's what we called him. He worked in. He was working at a printing factory, like a newspaper printing factory, over in what I remember was called Strawberry City. And what I remember about Strawberry City was that we could drive through the hills to get to where he worked. And you could drive real fast, and if you went over those hills fast enough, like us kids in the back seat would laugh because you could feel it in your belly, and you feel the butterflies. And also, I mean, the reason why I say it was kind of like there was a really formative time in my memory was, I mean, there was enough chaos happening too, where I remember that clearly enough as well. But it for some reason doesn't pollute the other stuff that was going on. And so it's interesting looking at Carolyn today because I see like, and she's only 15 months old, almost 16 months old, and she's obviously not as old as a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. But when I look at her and I see how she kind of looks at the world, I see this kind of wonder, and there's almost like a security and a strange confidence in the world with that wonder. There's not like okay, what's happening?
What's up? Can you hear me?
I can.
I just thought I'd come and chill with my dog with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. What's up, Whiskey?
Whiskey, they're talking to you. He's all zonked out.
Oh. Yeah, Riz, and I think Riz, Ben, you see that too. It's like there's this interesting. It's weird. You could tell that they have like there's this like lack of lack in their kind of in their perception of the world. Like there's very naive almost, but also very powerful to look at because, in a sense, it's like you could say to that about them that they don't know what they don't know, and then if there's another sense that we can say, well, we don't know what we've forgotten. And but that's why I think I'm able to look at kind of that time of my life and think of and have kind of a fondness for it because yeah, I mean the whole, so at that fairground that they had there, they had this like you could walk. I remember there's like this you could walk around back there. There's a section where people could walk and use like they can have like family barbecues and stuff. And we never did that over there. But then they had these weird things where like they made them for shade, and they looked like these sombreros, and they were yellow. And I remember that being a thing. But they had, but I remember I loved going to my mom's, where my mom worked at Supercuts there. I thought Supercuts was like, the place to be as far as like, this is where the best of the best work for getting your hair cut, and and everybody was so nice to me and my brother, and there's like a strange kind of well, we got Brett's here too, a strange kind of prestige that a child has. um we've we've lost Goldsby, and so yeah, there was like the security about that, but then like I said, there was enough chaos going on at that time as well. But also there was enough stability. So dad and mom weren't together at that time, but Richard and my mom were, and I think we really liked Richard at that time. I know. I mean, yeah. hard to really kind of like get down to the bottom of that. But so we were over at this place, living in this house that I was telling you guys about, and in the backyard there was like a little backyard that was shared with another house next door, and all that whole thing was fenced in. And I remember they had kind of they had like a peach tree back there, and then there was like this bunch of lumber that was back there, and some nails and a hammer, and my brother and I could go back there. And also in the backyard there was like this wood chest that Richard must have made or something that could open up, and we'd have our toy guns and stuff in there, and we always play cops and robbers and whatever. And which I loved that. I loved playing that kind of stuff because like Ryan was talking about in his rando with Olson, this being able to do theater and stuff. And I never did theater in school or anything, but I did enough playing with the other kids where that was as good as doing theater, because nobody's paying you to do it. And boy, you can really get connected with the world and the people about you if you play pretend. And so there was that wood chest, but there was also this lumber, and back there we ended up I remember one day Richard would say, "All right, you guys go outside, go play," and we'd be out there, and we built this whole, like, I had this fascination at that time in my life for drawing. That was right around the time when Desert Storm was going, and there must have been a lot of images on television of Desert Storm and stuff, and that stuff fascinated me. And I would draw pictures of tanks and F-15 airplanes, and I loved the movie Top Gun. And again, I'm like a kid, and I loved this stuff. So I don't know why they let the 6-year-old watch Top Gun and all this stuff, but I did love that stuff. But I would draw this kind of stuff, and in the backyard where that lumber was, one day my brother and I were back there, and we got the hammer and the wood and this scrap lumber, and we built what we thought. And what's so interesting to me is when I remember it, it looks like a jet. I don't really know what it actually looks like, but in my mind, I know it, and to us, it looked that way. It had this shape of it, and so Richard was off work at the time. I think he hurt his back or something. I think he hurt his back at that newspaper print place, which was so interesting because, like, as a kid, when my mom would take my brother and I to go and meet him, we would go to this place and we could walk around in there, and there's a particular smell that the ink has, and I can smell it right now. And there's like, it's kind of a dingy building. And as a kid, again, so like when I look back, I have an image in my mind of what it looks like, and it's fascinating. I don't know what it actually looks like though, but I know what it looks like. You know what I mean? And but I think he hurt his back, and so he was off work, and my mom would go work at Supercuts, and he would watch my brother and I. And I think this is kind of like, I think he always had alcoholism, but this was kind of a time for him to be able to day drink as well as watch us and stuff. And so one day, and so oftentimes what would happen was he would pass out, he would just pass out, and my brother and I would like go over there and try and shake him and wake him up. And remembering this, we thought he was just playing with us, like pretending. And sometimes he would wake up and he'd be laughing, and he had this tremendous, beautiful laugh. Sorry. It was more like a cackle. The thing, what's kind of interesting is like when I play with Carolyn. I found it really, really hard in my adult life to be able to tap into genuine laughter, and I don't know why that is. It is what it is. But when I play with Carolyn, we like just tonight we were running around. We just discovered like where we can chase each other, and she makes me laugh, like genuine laughter that I can't help it, so it's real. And that laughter, it's his laugh, and that's very strange to me. You have to think, you have to know that there is a lot of resentment connected to this person, and anyhow, he would do this thing where he would like pass out, and he sometimes, and maybe sometimes he was pretending. I don't know, but I think it's more that he wasn't actually pretending. And so one day we're eating at the table, and it's like this. It must have been like a 6-sided table or something, maybe an 8-sided table. I'm not sure. And it had it was like wood with like glass inserts throughout the whole table. And next to the table was this china hutch that my mom got. I think she got it from her first marriage, and it was like oak, and it had glass shelves in it, like clear glass shelves, and like all of it was glass. All the doors were glass and stuff, and it was a 2-part thing where on the bottom it was like all straight wood, solid wood, beautiful, and then on top was this thing with all the glass in it, with all the china in it, and that was sitting like so. Like if you're looking down at the room, here's the table, and then here's the china hutch sitting up against the wall, right? And we're sitting there and we're eating ramen noodles, and because that's the kind of stuff we ate, That's what you eat when you're on a Supercuts budget, basically. And one day we're at the table and we're eating, and this the house starts to shake, and we're like laughing. My brother and I are laughing, and Richard comes walking down the hall from the living room, and he's laughing at us because we're telling him to stop. Like, stop. And he's walking, his hands are on the walls as he's walking down the hall, and he's like walking towards us, and he's laughing at us because we're telling him to stop, because he thinks that, or because we think that he's shaking the house, and so he's a little buzzed up, and he thinks this is kind of hilarious, right? And he picks us up from the table and walks us down to the back door to stand under under the door jamb there. Oh, little bear, you gotta go back to sleep. Go on, go to sleep. She's gonna be fine. Don't worry about it, guys. She's fine. Anyhow, he takes us to the back door there, and as soon as he gets us up from the table, the China hutch comes down and comes down onto the table. So he got us out of there just in time, and and the whole but before it was over, I don't remember how long it lasted, because I'm 6 years old. I don't really know. Well, let's see. I think I was 6 years old at the time. I don't think I was 5 yet. Maybe I was still 5. So that was October of 1989. That was I think they call it the Palo Alto earthquake, and it happened during the World Series was playing at the time. Yeah, Oakland A's and the Giants, I think. And we had power out for the whole week, and every picture, everything on the walls completely fell off the walls. The chimney fell in through the house, or through the chimney. And I mean, I don't remember that being a bad thing. None of that felt like a scary time to me. I know that people had to get rid of their food because nobody has power. Nobody knows how long the food's going to stay out. So what they did was everybody got together and lit up their barbecues and had barbecues. That's what you had. An event like that didn't make people go crazy. They had a barbecue in an odd way, this strange communion. And I think it must have been not too long after that we moved out of that place. We moved over to Taft Circle. And Taft Circle was over by the mall. And we lived there. And at that time, we got, I remember we got from my grandparents, we got a Nintendo NES 1 for Christmas. I got, I know exactly what I got for Christmas that year. We got the Nintendo NES 1. We had one of those big televisions that were wooden, that would sit on the floor, and they're huge. And that's what we would play the Nintendo on. And, but so we got the Nintendo. I got a bunch of Lincoln Logs. And then I remember I got this weird kind of flashlight that was a toy flashlight, like a kid. Yeah, we did Duck Hunt on that thing. But it was this weird flashlight with a, I don't know, I just remember, and it's I could find this thing on here. I remember I had also a I think it was not Cabbage Patch Kid. I think it was a Garbage Pail Kid monster with the big nose with the weird kind of warts all over it. And this thing was for me as a kid, it was awesome. It was huge, I got that because before that, when I was still living in Fort Ord with my mom and dad, I got a Gremlins plushie with it was the Gizmo plush where you would shake it and it would go, oh, or something like that. And so I think I started to kind of outgrow that, and they got me the Garbage Pail Kids little monster plushie. So that is all to say. That reminds me of 1989, and I think that was the same year that the movie Little Monsters came out, with Fred Savage and what is this? I can never remember his dang name. The guy who's got OCD, who's on So You Want to Be a Millionaire. Maybe he did America's Got Talent. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? Howie Mandel. That's it. Yeah. And that movie is great. We loved that movie. It's awesome. It has a cool little soundtrack. It was cool. But that was interesting. Thanks for taking that trip down memory lane with me. I really appreciate that. I haven't thought about that in a very long time. But it is a formative space in my mind and in my life. Um, and when I'm in California, last time Anna and I went there, we kind of like cruised around and got to go and revisit those places. Just kind of look at them. Just kind of look at them. And like after Taft Circle, we moved to Prunedale and Sea Bend. And we lived, that's the last time that we lived with Richard before my mom and Richard split up, before they got back together in um, Wisconsin, which brought us to Wisconsin. And anyhow, when we were in Prunedale there, Ann and I drove by the place. I could tell it was very strange because I hadn't been there since I was, so it was 1990 when we lived there. So 7 years old now. And we only lived there a short period. But when Ann and I were in California, we were driving through there. I'm like, this looks so familiar. And I was like, take a right here, take a left here. Sure as shit, there's the house. And it was tiny. I don't remember it being that tiny. Um,
Yeah.
so Carolyn must think this place is a palace, dude, which is awesome. And I hope she does, you know? And I hope that it gets to be her palace for as long as we're able to have this be her palace. Okay, I'm done with all that. Cheapers. What do you guys, what's on your mind?
That was awesome. It is crazy going back to old places we lived and how much smaller they are.
I think that Mom and Richard really wanted to make it happen and make it work. They just never really had the tools for it. They didn't know what they were up against, really. And I think that's kind of like one of the scary things about life is, you'd be wandering down some alley that you have no idea that this is some dark alley I shouldn't be down. And you get too deep in there and you don't realize what kind of shit you're in. And I think that I don't think any of us like set out to be like, this life is fucked up and I don't, and just kind of drop into like this real dark space and just kind of reside there. Like, I think when we're in it, even when we are in that, there's still like this other kind of like lit up kind of hope that I have within me that kind of, and maybe I'll just speak for myself, where I kind of like still have this kind of childlike feeling that it'll just get better tomorrow or something. And it'll just change, but I don't realize that I don't realize that it doesn't just change if I don't find ways to surrender, And so I think what can be so hard for people today is we live in a world where there are charlatans everywhere, and a word like surrender is like $10 word, and I only got $2. You know what I mean? And I don't buy your shit, and so it's hard to figure out what that even means to surrender. So yeah.
I bet you remember the first time you figured out what it meant.
Yeah.
I had an old guy tell me the white chip was international sign of surrender, and he said to me, it just means I don't have to fight anymore. And I was like, and I needed to hear that because every day was a fight, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me so I didn't land in detox or anything like that. I landed in jail. So, but like I had already burnt, like the wheels came off a long time ago, and but I was a rock star, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to do rock star shit, and that was just like par for the course. It wasn't like there's nothing abnormal about this. This is like the way shit goes, you know. But it was exhausting, and I didn't really realize how exhausting it really was. And so once I basically burnt everything to the ground, and anything that was important to me had collapsed. It was like I knew that it was a self-imposed crisis that I wouldn't be able to fix, and I landed in jail. Thank God. And I remember walking through because I didn't know I was gonna be going to jail that day, you know, like I thought I was just going to court that day. And the judge said, yeah, you're gonna go right here, take him and take him through that through intake over there. And I was like, wait, so I'm going to what, jail? And I knew that before that, just before that moment, like the couple days prior to that, were really fucking bad. But they weren't they weren't as nearly as messy as they had been in the past before that. They were just bad in the way that it's like this, when hell becomes mundane. You know, it's like, dude, when hell becomes mundane, it becomes way too familiar. That's a place you don't want to be, because you kind of like you normalized this quiet chaos. And so those couple days before that, I had been like, I'm done. I did not think just another day. No. That's fucking great. I did not think that that I was going to be going to a 12-step program or something like that. I did no clue. It was not on my my list of things to do, you know. And I had grown up with an alcoholic. You know, I knew what an alcoholic was. I was not that. I wasn't that only because I couldn't really see it, which is very insidious. And so when the bottom came, and the jig was up, and the mundane hell was like, you know, when even that wouldn't take me. When hell said, bro, what are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here. That's when you know you really fucked up. So I was done. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew like I was done. I thought that I was just gonna stop. Of course I'll stop. look how bad it is, you know. And I just couldn't see that there had been several times in the past where I said, I'm just going to stop, and then stopped, but only momentarily, because what happens is life, good life and bad life, it's really just too much for me to kind of manage, and I don't know how to walk. I don't know how to be a person. You know, when you're a when you're a denizen of the mundane hell, you know, I don't know how to be a person, um, and that means I don't know how to be a person without the substance either, especially without the substance, because it's like that's my only connection to a power greater than myself. Really, that's what I always felt like, especially looking back. Substances were always a power greater than myself. I would often treat them that way because, like, I didn't have the power to live on my own, and I needed to connect somehow. And for some reason, that worked. It just didn't work very well for a long period of time. So, anyways, I go into jail, and as I'm walking from the courtroom into the through the intake door, the big metal door, there was almost a relief. It's like, oh God, now I can rest or something like that. You know, like this is going to be, this is it, or nothing, or nothing's ever going to happen. Like, I got to do something here. I don't know what that means, but it's either this or I don't know. And so they sent me to jail. I was there for 7 months. I floated between that jail and another jail because I had a third DUI in a previous, or in another county, a month prior. And so I was running this 7-month concurrent thing. And my brother, like, lived down the street from the jail that I was in. And my mom lived a couple hours north, or a few hours north. Now, in my band, they were a couple hours north too. The only time that anybody ever visited me in that 7 months, I had my brother visit me once. And again, he's literally down the street. He is not, you know, he loves me very much. That is the best thing he could have done, is just let me sit there. And, you know, he had kids and a wife and stuff. He wasn't married at the time, but he was gracious enough to let me live with him prior to that and drive their vehicle, which I got the DUIs in. And he just let me sit there, and he went off to work and he did his thing. He visited me one time, and my mom never visited me. I would call her and stuff, and she would they helped me out here and there with put some money on the commissary. And then the only other time that somebody visited me was when our bass player, Josh, from the band that I was in, he had and he was like this. He was this dude that was like he was a Jesus dude, and that always weirded me out. And I would be like, really like condescending to him, because he would never want to use cuss words in songs and stuff like that. And I was just it was such a rude, I was so superior to him. It was such an ass. You know, I'd be like, in my mind, he doesn't play as good as whatever, all this bullshit in my head about, and this lack of gratitude. I was just a walking ingrate. And he was born with like some sort of weird heart condition. And I guess he got sick and died. And he was young, you know. I don't even think he was 30 yet. And he wasn't like a druggie or anything like that. And he just got sick and died. And that was devastating to me, because I never, like, you know, I didn't know anything about amends or anything at that time. But I just thought, man, what a real asshole I was to that guy who was always really patient and kind, and there's quiet wisdom to him, that I just had no respect for because I'm a degenerate. And it's really weird that after I got out of jail and I started doing 12-step stuff, and when I got at the end of my sentencing, you could go to this program that they called alcohol treatment court, and so I started doing that, and you could do like the first month of it, you were on house arrest. I was on house arrest. You had certain things you had to adhere to. You had to go like to these self-help meetings and stuff like that, and of your choosing. I had to like write where I was going every day for the next week on a schedule because I was on house arrest. I can go to work, I can go to the grocery store, I can go to self-help meetings, and I can go to church if I wanted. I didn't do the church thing, but I did all the other stuff. And but so I was doing that program, and the guys I was in a band with got a new bass player, and they were going to open up for Killswitch Engage, a band that we all loved, this metalcore band out of Boston, out of Massachusetts. And we could go, and they were going to be opening for them at the Rave in Milwaukee, and so they invited me. They're like, "Yeah, dude, we're going to be down there. Come on, we'd like to see if you can make it." I'm like, "That'd be cool, man." So I talked to my sponsor, and my sponsor's like, "Yeah, dude, ask the judge, see if he'll let you go." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm on house arrest." He's like, "No, don't worry about it. Just ask the judge, see if he'll let you go." And so I said, "Okay." So I told the judge my situation, that these guys are in town. I'm really good friends with them. I don't know, maybe, who knows, the last time they ever play. I have no idea. Would it be okay with you if I went to that show at the Rave? And he said, "Yeah, go ahead." What the fuck? It's so nuts to me, dude. And so we get there, and so one of my buddies took my place in the band as a guitar player, and they had this other dude that started playing the bass. So the band was comprised of a drummer, 2 guitar players, a bass player, and a lead vocalist. Okay. When I left the band because of jail, when I got kicked out of the band, one of my best friends at that time came in to play guitar because he was a better guitar player than me anyway. So he just came in, and he already knew all the parts and everything. And then Josh died, and they got somebody else to fill or to come in for Josh's place. And I get to the Rave where they were opening for Killswitch Engage on the side stage, and they're like, "Dude, the bass player didn't show up, dude. He said, 'Fuck you guys.'" And they're like, "You got to play." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, I at that point, like, I was so ashamed. All I had at home was, because I gave my guitar to them to sell at the auction to raise money for Josh's funeral and stuff. And I'm not telling you, delete that. That's not a virtue signal. That's just what happened. So I didn't have a guitar. And at home, I only had like this little ukulele looking piece of shit. And so I was so ashamed of playing guitar. I just didn't play guitar. The only thing I didn't do anything really creative at that time except like some watercolor paintings, because I was just so like, I was like properly ashamed of myself. So I hadn't played these parts in over a year. I didn't know. Like they're like, you think you can play the parts? I'm like, I guess. And so I go, we started the show, and we did, like, before I went to jail and stuff, we did one tour. And so like I knew these guys, like I helped write these songs. I know all this stuff. And we get when I go, I was so scared and so nervous, dude. I had my shorts on. I had my ankle bracelet on for the alcohol ankle bracelet and the house arrest thing.
You were so based.
And I'm like scared as shit. And I'm up there. Now, I'm not a Jesus dude at this time, but I am doing what my sponsor suggests, and that is pray. So I just asked God to help me through this. And the 4 count on the hi-hat starts, and we're fucking in, dude. We're in there. And it was the most like one of the most intense moments of my life at that point. And there's like the dude, one of the dudes, and so this is like before, this is there's like this sidebar at the rave, and when you come in, you got to walk past this thing to get to the big show, and that's what we were playing. So, and it was funny because like one of the kids are up there in front there, and they're like pointing to my ankle bracelet, and they're like, "That's sick, dude." I'm like, but that's all I really remember. I don't really. It was so fast and so like ridiculous to me. So I got to do that, and the other thing that was really interesting was I thought that I would really like. I thought that I was really going to enjoy seeing Killswitch Engage, a band that I loved, and I was just like, I'm so fucking bored with this. I want to go home and go to sleep. Like it was just so like I didn't realize that how much alcohol had given me this euphoric reason to be around things. And so I was just like, I realized that I would like in the state of inebriation, it wasn't real. It was just kind of like it was like this kind of like jacked up version of reality that isn't reality at all. And it took me a while to get over because I thought, well, does that mean I'm boring or something? That I'm really not really that interested in hanging out with all these people and all these loud sounds up till like 11 o'clock at night. That's like really late for me. It's kind of too much bullshit for me. So I realized a lot that time. So months and months later, a couple of years, maybe a year later, excuse me, that band broke up, and they started working with another guy on a whole nother project, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come and play?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll come and hang out." And they weren't going to do any shows. They just wanted to write the stuff, write a good record, record it, and then go put it out and go do the thing, And I was like, all right, yeah, that's cool. And I was playing bass on this project because the other guys were just outstanding guitar players. And I'm a good enough guitar player where I can be a pretty interesting bass player. So I really liked that. And like, so when people are like, well, in the beginning of recovery, do I have to like get rid of all my old friends and stuff? I say, no, you don't have to do that. I think that if you focus on doing step work and your relationship with God, you can do anything. You can go anywhere. I mean, there's guys like Joel Walsh who got sober on the road. So I think it's entirely possible that in my own experiences, I mean, a couple of these guys were smoking weed. And when I realized they didn't really drink alcoholically anyways, I was the only guy that drank alcoholically. So, if I want an excuse to drink, I don't need much of one. That's the point. So, and my alcoholism is not caused by anybody else. It's within me. So, anyways, one day we're driving up. I went up to practice, and they were like up in Oshkosh, and I'm down in Waukesha, which is like an hour and a half or so away. And I get up to the Oshkosh kind of early, and I've not been to Josh's. I've not been to Josh's cemetery or gravesite. I didn't even know where it was, and one day I just drove there. I knew where the cemetery was, but it's like there's thousands and thousands. A big ass cemetery, like it's a big one. It's one of those ones where you just drive by it and you just keep driving. If you were to hold your breath, you'd probably die. So you don't hold your breath on one. And so I just pulled in there one day. I got to practice early. And I thought maybe I'll just go here and see. Maybe I'll see him. You know. And I said out loud, I said, "Josh, I don't know where you are, man. Maybe you can show me." And sure as shit, I turn the corner and I see his headstone right there, dude. That fucking freaked me out. and I parked the car and I got out there and I laid there, and I was able to make an amends that way. And yeah, so it doesn't have to be sufficient by the standards of anybody else. If you're willing to, if you're out there and you're listening and you're wondering how do I get sober, what do I do? I would say take the suggestions of people who have been there and done that, and make it personal between you and your God, and you'll know when you've done it. You will know it. You won't need anybody else to tell you whether or not that was an authentic or genuine experience, because you'll be like, that shit was fucking real. Who drives by a cemetery I've never been in before, where it's like 3 blocks, 4 blocks long, and I just pull in one random place and drive, say out loud, and there's his headstone right there. What is that? Tell me that's a coincidence? Or is that just the will of God? That's being willing to be somewhere and ask God for help. And when you're willing, he will show. So, jeepers, we've been going an hour?
It's a hell of a story, though.
Good grief. Yeah. Best part is that it's true.
Yeah. And it's yours.
Yeah. For a long time, I treated sobriety like a set of directions, because what happened was that I learned how to do the stuff that they taught me, and I learned how to do it in a way that was like the right way, right? Like there's the right way to do things, and I think there is a probably right way to do things, but when you go and just cage stage sobriety with the big book, there's a way that you can take spiritual principles and weaponize them and turn them into nails and hammers. And that's not what this shit's for. But you won't know that until you get there. So if you're out there and listening and you ever encounter somebody who is cage stage sobriety guy, just be patient with them. He needs another spiritual awakening, that's all. Don't give up. Again, just like my alcoholism wasn't something that somebody else inflicted on me. You know, my recovery isn't something that I can, if I don't grasp recovery, I can't blame it on somebody else. I can't say, well, it was the sponsor's fault, or it was those assholes at the meetings. Well, they have nothing, literally nothing to do with my relationship with God, my ability to connect. Nothing good, Chris. You can come on and hang out if you like.
Yeah, you had a totally different experience than me, for sure, with the coming to my knees thing, for sure. I mean, I get arrested, and like, you know how people say you become your identity. See, for me, I would go around telling people I was an alcoholic while drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I would literally, now I grew up with my parents in recovery, so they had forced me to do, not forced me, but it was like a babysitter go to Alateen.
Yes.
That was probably the worst thing they could have ever done for me, but they didn't know, you know. And I got in with some dysfunctional kids in those groups, you know. And I mean, I was dysfunctional, but this was enabled me to learn lingo and
Mm-hmm.
know things I should have never known, you know. Not that young.
Aren't you
And
a Calvinist?
yeah,
That's exactly what should have happened. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
so yeah, so I mean, I remember people would say things to me, you know, like if they'd compliment me or you got such a great attitude or you're life of the party or whatever, you know, crap that they'd say when they were drinking. I would be like, this is all a facade, dude. And they would laugh and think I was just having a good time, but it was true. And I'm like, seriously, I'm a raging alcoholic, and I was, and they thought that was funny, you know. And I liked being funny for that. And when I got my first DUI, which was really my second, the first one, the cop let me off by calling a friend of mine to pick me up, and so he should have never done that, but it's not his fault, but you know, I had a chance, and then the next chance was getting arrested, and the way that I saw the whole arrest, I'd gotten released, and it was not a big deal, and I even got the videotape. It was back when you could get a VHS tape, blank tape, and get the copy of your interrogation and all that. I bring it to work with all my drinking buddies, and we go into the break room, and I'm playing my tape, and we're all laughing, and I'm laughing. And I mean, when I got sober, I looked back and thought, what kind of idiot were you? You know, I mean, that wasn't even enough. So, yeah, I mean, I leaned into it, man. I rode a motorcycle and had a 6-pack of beer between me and the motorcycle, you know, and I'd be drinking, putting them back in the box, you know, riding around on a crotch rocket. It's a miracle I'm alive, you know what I mean? But I just can't, I have no idea why. Well, I mean, I have a better idea. But to survive all that and still hit a metaphorical brick wall again with the law, and that was it. Because it was more than just getting arrested. It was earth shattering. It was life altering, you know. And it wasn't just a DUI. You know, I didn't have to do any jail time for DUIs. Nothing. I didn't have to suffer the consequences for that at all. But this was different, you know. And yeah, it was like, I mean, obviously, there's temporal consequences for mistakes you make, and you have to live with them sometimes. So sometimes I wish I had easier consequences, but at the end of the day, it was what I needed to go through to get me to my knees. And I was very blessed to have a family that have already been in recovery, that had already gotten sober. You know, they were plugged in. So, yeah, and the idea that God was at the center of it from the very beginning for me was probably what made that as easy as it was, you know. Like I didn't even deserve to have an easy sobriety process, you know. I don't know why it was so easy, to be honest with you. I mean,
Well,
I know, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah, but I mean, maybe you understand this by now, but I didn't think I understood this in the beginning. That it's hard to understand it from the outside. I think consequences don't really mean much. I don't care how big they are. They aren't. They might be enough to launch somebody into like a plan of action, but that's it. They don't really. For somebody like me, like, and I would consider myself a hopeless variety. I actually have a shirt that says that, hopeless variety. I got a story behind that, but um, like the consequences, I think the heaviest consequences were the quietest ones. It was like when people just said, "I'm not," and they didn't have to say anything. They just the look they give you. Really, you don't have to say shit because you know. So consequences are enough sometimes to push somebody into action, but for I think what I would consider the real alcoholic, um, it won't be enough to hold them in check for life in and of itself. Just like the most beautiful consequences of trying to surrender and stay surrender, the most beautiful consequences, like a life that I could never have imagined, that life that is beautiful and more beautiful than I can ever imagine, that life, my daughter, is not enough to keep me sober. And that's because I'm I'm without defense against the first drink. All my defenses must come from a higher power. I don't have the power and choice in drink. Um, if I fall asleep at the wheel and I don't actively stay surrender, the best of my that's what surrender means. It's when you lay down all your weapons that you would use to defend yourself, all of those stories, all of it, you lay it down and you don't pick it up again. And you say so that, whoever you decide will be your guide, what do I do next? And then you actually just do what they do, even if you do it poorly. But like, I wish that I could just be transformed by the love of my daughter and the love of my wife and all that stuff, and the comforts of my living situation. And I wish that were enough to just keep me indefinitely sober, and I wouldn't have to go and do that other stuff. Right? That would be so nice, right? Because then I can just have all the time in the world to do whatever the hell I want. But that's not how it works. Plus, the reality of the situation is if I actually am engaged in the plan of action or the design for living that's laid out, I get to experience stuff that I couldn't even tell you guys about. And you know this stuff. I mean, you'll experience stuff. uh, a perception through a lens that is way, way, way more than you can, like imagine, basically. And it becomes very fulfilling. And I don't think for a second it's works righteousness or anything like that. It's just like God knew that I would want to participate. He knew that would be one of the greatest joys of my life, is to be able to participate in what He would have me do. And one of the things He would have me do is seek Him and help others. That's it.
Do you remember? I don't remember where it is in the big book, but do you remember? There's a part where it talks about there'll come a point where the only thing that's going to keep you from a drink is you and your higher power. You remember that part?
No, I don't think it exists.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I heard it from, and maybe it was a sponsor thing, but I remembered a bunch of girls showed up at my house, and I wasn't sober long, but it was like my tempting moment, and they were knocking on the outside of my door, and I was so scared that I was going to let them in. I was so scared what it was going to mean, and I left the lights off. They knew I was there. My car was there. You know what I mean? And I just hit my knees and I was like completely praying. I'm like, I can't do this, man. There's no way I am not going to open this door. you know? And they're like, and it's all the loving stuff, you know, like, oh, we love you, you know, we just want to be here to help you. And I'm like, I don't even know how long it lasted, but then they were gone. And I remember just being so relieved that like I got through that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my experience with the scary first thought, I think that's the only way I know how to say that. The like the that tempting, like when temptation really hits. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh shit, that's scary because I don't really actually know how to describe it any other way than that.
Yeah.
It's like a way that it's in your soul, and it's knocking from the inside. It ain't out there. 'Cause it's like, bitch, open up, and you're like, no, that's very scary. For me, this is why I don't like in like circles, recovery circles. You'll often hear people talking about outside circumstances. It's watch out for bad days. Watch out for being hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. All those. There's some truth to it, but not much. I don't think because it's already inside. It ain't out there in the parking lot doing push-ups like they say. I don't think that's true. I think it's inside waiting me to fall asleep and invited to come play. So one day I was at this meeting and I'm like sponsoring like who knows how many guys at the time, bunch of dudes. I'm totally plugged in. Like I have like service commitments. I'm praying. I have a car, like a nice car. To me, it's a nice car. I had a girlfriend. Life is so good. It's better than it's ever been. And I was at this. And I was helpful at the meeting, and I'm leaving the meeting. And before I got to my car, that serious, scary ass thought showed up out of nowhere for no reason. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And I called my sponsor. I'm like, dude, what is going on? He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I mean, like, I'm doing all the things that I should be doing. I'm praying. I'm making the amends. I'm doing all the blah, 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 blah. Why did this happen? He's like, what do you mean? Why did it happen? You're alcoholic. That's why it happened. That's why we do all this stuff, because you don't know what you're going to look like the day it comes knocking.
Yeah.
It's my alcoholism is not circumstantial. It is within me. Sometimes it can seem circumstantial, and if I want an excuse, I don't need much of one. And that's why I need to stay, like, that's the whole idea of surrender, I think. And surrender and get plugged in and submit. Woo. It's like, do the shit. I don't care if you like it or not. I don't give a shit. Just do the shit. Really seek him. Make it personal. Do what's suggested and let him do the rest. Right? Because you're not going to remove your shortcomings. You're not going to remove it. It never says that you're going to do it. It says he's going to do that. What my job is to humbly ask him. And I don't know how to do that. So I have to try to like make the amends and do all these things. Because I can't fix me. If I could fix me, I wouldn't even be in these programs. I would just fix me. I would just change my mind and be the kind of person I'd want to be. Hell, I might even be it. If I could change my mind and have the power to actually make myself the person I'd want to be, I'd be a fucking millionaire. You know what I mean? But I don't have the power to do this. I have all of my powers must come from him, and whatever his will is, that's the business, not mine. How is she doing? I turned this down. All right, she's sleeping. Yes. She's so comfortable. So that's kind of maybe a little weird to hear from people, because like sometimes I think we do treat this stuff like it's so clinical. this shit is not clinical. You know, there are things I have to do that are propositional and they're highly suggested, but I have very little to do with any of it. My part is willingness. That's it. And it had to be that way because I don't like it. Well, part of me doesn't like it, right? I don't know that I like it until I really feel like, until I really have an experience of what what grace actually is. I don't know that I like it. I think it's punishment or hard work or something. Like when I get there, they say, you got to read this book and talk to that asshole over there and do what he says. And I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to read a book or talk to that guy. Because that just seems like punishment to me. You know, it's like, well, then you don't. If you don't want to do it, then go. You can have the misery you had before. It's fine. We're not going to make you do it. You know, do it or don't.
I was so scared to ask my sponsor to sponsor me, man. It was scarier than asking a girl out for the first time.
I was about to say how close is it to asking someone out on a date? Yeah.
I mean, for a guy, this was like, you know, and you're asking another guy.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just weird to me. And oh man.
The first guy I asked, I get out of jail and I go to this meeting. It's a 6:30 meeting, and I go there. And I've not really been to a meeting before. I mean, I've been to a couple, but not on the outside, and not for like 5 years. And my brother drove me to the meeting. My brother let me live with him again after I got out. He takes me there, drops me off. I go down there, and there's like this dude. He's like the secretary, and he's dressed in a suit and seems really well put together. You know, a nice guy and all this stuff. I thought this guy is definitely the president of this business. And and I asked him, and he's like, I asked him if he would be my sponsor. Because I'm just like that. I'm like, I'm in, whatever, I'm in. Well, might as well get to business. He says, oh, no, but come back here next week. Maybe I can help you or whatever. I can take you. What he did say is I can take you to some other meetings. He wouldn't sponsor anybody, but he would take me to meetings, and he did for like 2 years. He would pick me up every Friday. He would drive from his home, which was 20 minutes away, to me to pick me up, to take me back to the meeting in his town 20 minutes away every Friday. And then after the meeting would drive me home and then drive himself back to his home. So 20, 40, 60, or 20, 40, what is that, 80 minutes? 80 minutes of drive time every Friday for some dolt. But he didn't sponsor me. The guy that sponsored me originally, is the second week that I went to that meeting. This is what got me. This is a great story. My goodness. Wow. So I get to the meeting. My brother drops me off. I smoked like Brett, only worse. I still love smoking. I hadn't had them for like 2 years now, which is a miracle I don't understand. But I was smoking like a chimney, and I was outside the meeting and smoking, and this weird dude walks up to me, dude. He's like 6'1" or whatever, real lanky dude. He's like little like boomerish, and I'm like, I don't know, this guy's kind of weird. And he's smoking, and I've never met him before. He's like, hey man, what's up? He's like, yeah, you ever have like a really bad day, and you got something on you, and you don't know what the hell it is, and then you got like this resentment, and you call a guy, and he doesn't answer. So then he's like, and this happened to me today. So I called the guy, he doesn't answer. And I called another guy, I had his phone list, and he didn't answer. And I called this other guy, and he didn't answer. Finally, like the fifth guy answered, and he's like, what's wrong? And he's like, I don't know. And it was like this weird spiritual jiu-jitsu shit that he pulled on me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. And he's like, all right, man, I'll see you down the meeting. And he goes in, and he's down there, and he had the lead. It was a what they call a grapevine meeting. A grapevine is like this magazine written by these people for these people. It's like a monthly publication that they put out, and it's their stories. And at this meeting, they pick a story out of this grapevine, and they like do a little lead on it and whatever. And he does a lead on the ninth step. The ninth step is an amends step. Now this guy is only like a year sober or something like this. He is not much more sober than I am at the time. And he starts telling this story about how his sponsor told him he got to make an amends to your family, and they're all passed. And so he says he goes to make an amends to his mom, who's been passed away since he was like 17 years old. His mom passed away. Now he's like in his 50s, right? He's telling the story of his mother who passed away when he was like 17. And so he's like, yeah, so my sponsor said that I got to take, and I should write her a letter and take it to her graveside and pray and read her the letter. And then another guy said, you could take the letter, and after you do all that reading and stuff, you burn it, and it'll carry the message to her in the smoke. And then another guy said, we take the ashes and you throw it in the river and all this stuff. And he's like, so I'm a suggestions guy, so I did all of them. So I rode my bike, I wrote the letter, I rode my bike down to the cemetery, I read her the letter, I prayed, I wept, I burnt the letter, I took the ashes and I put them in the Fox River, and I rode my bike home. And when I got home, I opened the mailbox, and there was a letter in there from my aunt, and she sent me a letter that my mother sent to her when she was consoling her for the loss of one of her friends, and she wrote that letter to him like 38 years prior, right? Whatever it had been. And so the day he went to make the amends to his mom, he got a letter from his mom. I was like, dude, after that meeting, I went up to him. I was like, dude, will you be my sponsor? Because of course I'm going to ask this guy to be my sponsor, And he's like, I don't know, I guess, And, and he would pick me up, dude, and he would like buy me cigarettes, and we'd smoke cigarettes and talk about God and stuff. And he had a very like different way of doing things than I would do them now. And I kind of sometimes wish I was more like him in that way, like more gentle with the guys that I know that I work with, because there's something really about that. And it's really hard for me to break that sometimes. Sometimes I'm very clinical, and I don't want to be like that. I want to be like the guy who's just like very loving. I wish I was more like Ron Copperman, honestly. Like if we can all be more like Ron Copperman, jeepers.
Yeah, but you know that every sponsor helps people that they help because that's just the way that it works. Like
Yeah.
for me, I needed a softer guy, but man, this soft guy, dude, did he bring the hammer when he needed to bring the hammer? It was the most crazy. Like, if I knew I could manipulate you, which it was just a natural instinct for me. Even trying to get sober, it's not like, I wasn't knowingly trying to do this,
Mm-hmm.
but he could, read it because it takes one to know one. And he goes, it was something about. I talk a lot. This is why this media works fine. And he says, he goes, hey man, when you have a bad day, call me up, whatever. He says, but make sure you have other phone numbers for the other guys and all that stuff. So I was like, yeah, no problem. So I had a hell of a day at work, man. I mean, there was somebody that snaked me in a deal, and I was all pissed off. And it was just like, the resentment was building, and I needed to vent. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, man, I got to talk to you, dude. I am pissed. He goes, all right, do me a favor. He goes, call me back. But you got to call 3 guys before you call me. And he hangs up on me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, just like cold hang up.
I love it.
I'm like, what? I was so pissed off. So I call the first guy and I go through the whole thing. And then I call the second guy and I go through it again. I call the third guy and I go through it again. And then I call him. And by this time in my mind, I think that I'm going to lay into him about him doing me dirty like that. And he's like, hey, what's up, man? I'm like, what's up? And he goes, do you want to talk about it? And I'm like, no, I'm done talking about it. And he goes, well, good. And I, like, it was like, he had that, like you said, that Jedi mind crap going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I mean, I needed a guy like that, hardball. So you're perfect for wherever you got, bro.
Well, and the trick that he used there, if anybody wants to know, kind of the trick that he pulls there is, I think the best sponsors, maybe even the best spiritual carer that you will knows that your problem is not them. Your problem is self-centeredness. And so what he'll do, he'll find ways to pull you off of you and get you looking at somebody else. So he has you like thinking about somebody else. Go call 3 other guys, whatever. So that's a way of even just turning your attention just enough. Yeah. And like you could talk about it, right? But you'll probably ask them how their day is going too, right?
Of course.
Instead of just calling your sponsor and being like, he'd just be like, dude, shut the fuck up, dude. Like seriously, just stop talking. Like, think of somebody else. Like, when are you going to stop being a taker, kind of thing? And so the whole idea is, it's always. This is why I really believe in the idea of like an agape ontology or a other-centered ontology, because I can't. And it's not even relational ontology. It's different than that. Because relational ontology still includes me. The problem is I'm me wherever I'm always involved. So not in relational ontology. That's part of the problem. Because like I always will want to get something out of it naturally. So if I have an actual other-centered ontology where I think that that's the real reality of the world, that's actually where the reality of the world actually starts to take off and become like this true realm, when I can see that the world isn't about me at all. And that's not like self-hate or anything. And it's like, if you really want to know what self-love is, actually go think of other people and help them. Really try that. Really, I mean, like for real. And if you want to know what hell is, just keep thinking about yourself. That's okay.
Yeah, this sponsor, I thought I had a bad story, and my story isn't great, but yeah, his story was, I guess from my perspective, was worse. At least at the time is how I saw it. And it, whatever, there's no comparison. It's not like that. It's just that his complete honesty and openness about his story is what blew me away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah. And those kinds of interesting wooey, they're not even woo. It's just the way shit goes. Yeah. Realistically. I mean, the thing about getting the letter from your mom and stuff, from his mom, and he had a couple of those instances where he was just so connected, where God saw it fit that he would pull this woo shit on him, because he was such a science-minded dude that God needed to like basically hammer him with some real woo shit. to say, here, by the way, your logic ain't nothing, because what I got in store for you is way beyond what you can imagine.
Yeah,
And he had to have yeah, exactly. He had to like really drop him into those kinds of situations, and those were very attractive for me, because I love those kinds of stories. So of course I was going to be drawn to somebody who had that kind of stuff. And later I uh, I needed like help in kind of like the more technical work, because I'd be hearing stories of people doing like sitting with their sponsor and reading the literature line by line, and really taking the work out of the book as it's written. And I was thinking, man, I didn't have that experience. And so that's when I got a new sponsor, um, which it is what it is. And that really helped out a lot too, because I think like both ways are entirely valid. They work. The problem is the the latter way, or egocentric, self-centered know-it-all, can be a problem. That and there, that's where that cage stage sobriety happened for a while. But again, I think it was necessary. I mean, um, I yeah. So all sorts of different ways work. Um,
Yeah, he made me so uncomfortable all the time. Like he forced me into uncomfortability all the time.
hey, Mark,
What's up, Mark?
How's it going?
good, good. I missed you at the meeting tonight. Sorry.
Yeah. You missed it, dude. It was a heck of a time.
Dang it. No, it's all right. I'll go next week. Oh, I'm gonna send you a flyer, by the way. How are you doing, man?
Well, I'm pretty caught up in myself, and just my job has been so crazy, man, that it's like I can't. I'm just. It's really tough. I can't talk about anything other than how annoyed I am with everything. So, yeah, that's how I am.
You should call 3 guys and, and get back to us.
Why? What? I missed the inside joke.
That's what Brett's sponsor told him to do when he had complaints one time. His sponsor said, "Don't tell me about it. Why don't you why don't you call 3 guys and then talk to them?" And then he hung up on him. And I was just playing a weird joke there. Don't do it. I want to keep you here.
No. Yeah, like you ever just not, I don't know. I've been like practicing just not talking to people, just not, I used to like have people that I called when I was in a bad mood. And I'm just like, I think I'm just going to not do that. And I think I've been okay.
What do you do?
I talk to myself, which is not good. I don't believe in that. Sometimes there's different types of talking to yourself, I think. And I think that certain forms of talking to yourself can be like praying to demons. I don't think all talking to yourself is bad, but I'll engage in some negative self-talk where it's like I'm venting as if someone's there, but they're not. And but I try to pray. I really do. I try to pray a lot, and sometimes it's creepy because of how ineffective my prayers feel. It's like you hear people say like, and then I never prayed in my life, and I decided to pray, and God showed it up to me. It's like, dude, I'm praying all the time and I feel like less faith. What is going on? But anyway, hi Goldsby, nice to meet you.
Hi, Mark. Nice to meet you too.
And I think you already know this, but and maybe I should practice my own invitation. You could call me anytime, and I'll listen.
I appreciate it, and I have called you a couple times, but you know, I don't, dude. Here's the thing, bro. Like, I respect the vent, the ventee. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna vent, you gotta respect the person you're venting to. Like, I gotta know that this has to come to an end. Like, I'm not just gonna go on forever. Like,
Right.
Somebody cares. And so I try to space it out and like give somebody 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and then get in and get out, because some people, you know, they can only take so much and I can only take so much. So
Yeah.
But thank you. And
But,
same to you.
Yeah, and I need to do that because like 10-step stuff is very important and one of the hardest things to adhere to. And but I think like I don't know. I think maybe it's so hard to adhere to because of exactly what you're saying. It's like, well, I don't want to be a burden, and I don't want to, I don't want to like be like the weird guy who's always calling and complaining. There's a difference between complaint and I think just getting it out of my head and into and I think actually the person that we do this with can be something like a mediator in a strange way, even if they don't say anything, you know, like if you don't if I don't give you any advice or something. And that's good for me too, because like if you call me and you have something you just need to say it, I need to practice saying nothing, which is good for me because it's hard to do.
Yeah, that reminds me of myself one. No, I'm just kidding. And sometimes like I can choose to talk about my problems instead of like doing an obvious thing to address them. You know?
Yeah.
I just go on about them. Like there was a guy that used to call me and it was like tense, quote unquote, tense stuff about work. And then I just realized he just wanted to complain about his job. And I was like, how many other people have you called to talk about this? And he's like, I talked to Steve and Bill and Dave. And I'm like, so you just call all these people and just complain about your job, and like it's supposed to be some service to listen to you? Like, and then I just quit listening to him, you know?
Good.
But then there has been a couple times where I'm going through some dilemma to where I do literally just like go talk to every single person I see about it.
That's me. Just a real big dramatic whiny bitch. That's me. But you know this about me, and so I'm not even like joking when I say how like dramatic I am. Like sometimes like like when the women make fun of guys for having colds and they act like they're gonna die because they have a cold. Like that's how I am about everything. I always feel like the sky is falling, everything's happening to me. It's all very like big, and I catastrophize to the nth degree, and and it's just I do need to, as you're saying, practice honesty, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I always do, you know.
Of course, that's why I like you, because you're the most
I do it all.
person.
Yeah,
you're super spiritual. You're like this giant.
Neil said I'm the most humble person on the internet or something like that.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. Neil's, I didn't say it. Couldn't, if I said that about myself, it wouldn't be humble. But Neil said it about me.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that.
I heard it.
I'm just reporting what somebody else said.
And we all know that Neil is like the final word on, because he's the most normal. So
Yeah. But then Ethan Kayi actually said I was more normal than Neil too.
mm-hmm.
Brett has some mirror cinematography going on over. Oh, it's not a mirror.
That's what I thought too.
I thought it looked like a cool ship, like a port in a ship.
It's my VNA bubble.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Well, we've been going for an hour and 46 minutes. What else you got? Anybody want? Should we do like final word thing, and then I have to actually clean up Carolyn's toys before Ann gets home. And what do you guys think? Do you think I should? What should we call it? You got some final words?
I'm just glad you had a stream I could jump on. Good to talk to you and see everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, dude. Looking forward to next Saturday.
Oh yeah. Melissa's coming.
Oh, good, excellent. Ezra's coming with with his significant other, and
Sweet.
Ann and I will be here, and I think Laura is coming too. And I think that's it as far as I can tell. Laura and her husband probably. And so we're gonna have a campfire, and I'm gonna make some brats and some burgers. I think somebody's gonna bring pie, and if you want to bring like something like a side, like potato salad or something, that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'll bring something.
And
Happy
then,
birthday for your celebration there.
Yeah, happy early birthday.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I only said it's my birthday because my birthday is on that Friday, but this is more about the Greater Ingression Regional Protocol, or Greater Regional Ingression Protocol, GRIP. Yes, getting a grip.
Win-win.
And so
What does ingression mean?
I have no idea. Who knows what any of this stuff means? But I'm very much looking forward to spending time with you guys because I love fellowshipping with you, and maybe the skeeters will be down and we'll have just a nice fire. So
You know what? I have one final thought, which is something I was thinking about. The day that we had that meetup a month ago or so, it was funny that day that morning I looked on the work schedule and I had to work super late and I wasn't going to be able to make it. And I was like, I was so upset. And I called my boss because I was like, is there any way? And she's like, actually, we were already going to have somebody cover your later job. And I was so stoked. And it made me realize that, like, the way my life was going at the time, that was the only thing in my life that I was actually looking forward to. Like, that was, like, literally, like, there's nothing else. And I was like, this is the only thing I was looking forward to in my entire life.
Mm.
You know, it's kind of pathetic, but
No, man.
What?
sometimes that's just the way it be, you know?
Yeah. It's
And
hard.
it was a time. It was a good time.
Yeah. What do you do on Tuesday nights, Mark?
Usually I might watch a little Antiques Roadshow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I actually signed, that's another long thing. Forget it. There was this ad I saw on Facebook for this county of Waukesha for people to go into their county facilities to bring AODA recovery or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I've never seen something advertised like that on Facebook. So that's the calling. I gotta respond. So I responded. I had like 3 different interviews. I had to go to this guy's job and interview with him, and then they had me do this training online and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, I kind of just gave up on the whole thing.
Hmm.
Like, just tell me a time to go talk to a drunk, and I'll do it. Like all this, like there's a certain point to it, and that was supposed to be on Tuesdays, but I'm kind of giving up on it. It's too much paperwork, you know.
Sure. Well,
What's going on Tuesdays?
starting the thing over in Watertown at the Unity Club there. 7
Oh, nice.
7 p.m. It's the same as our Thursday night meeting.
So
Same.
it's still gonna do Thursdays.
Yes. Yep.
Watertown is far.
For you, yeah. But Waukesha is far for me.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go out there one of these days.
Yeah. That'd be cool. All right. Final
Well,
thought.
talking about disrespecting the ventee, I'm like stealing the screen.
No, it's good. What is with that microphone? This is so obtuse.
It's my desk.
Oh, okay.
Just happens to be in the way.
All right. All right. Let's do final word. Goldsby, what's up? You guys, you want the final word, or should we give it to Brett?
I was like, I'll give a word. It doesn't have to be the final word. I
Okay.
just wanted to say thank you for providing this space. I know I didn't really say anything, but just being in the room, so to speak, and listening to the insights, I feel like I don't have to be going through the same process that you're going through to resonate with the ideas.
Mhm.
And I just feel like I'm really appreciating the vulnerability, and obviously Whiskey loved it too, because he stayed virtually asleep the whole time. So that means good vibes all around. So thank you.
Thank you. That's the only time that I ever do a highlight.
Yeah. What's wrong?
Is this thing echoing? Weird. Dude. Maybe I can do it. Nope. What is happening? Well, I guess I'm going to find word twice. Brett, final word? Maybe he can't hear us more. Weird. Now it's become awkward.
I'm just kind of now looking at these comments. I want to see what Ron Copperman is going on about. I haven't talked to Ron Copperman in a while. Maybe that's why I've been in such a bad mood.
Hey, you know what I need?
What?
What do you need?
I need a topic for tomorrow morning.
What's kind of, you have anything kind of on mind?
Not really.
Hmm.
I put a date. That's what I put for the topic. This week's been a little this week's been weird.
Why don't you just talk about that?
Yeah, some of it is not worth talking about online.
Well,
But
how about this? Give yourself some rules about it, right? Like maybe no complaining, no other finger pointing, something like that. I don't know. Like maybe you could try an experiment where it's like other-centeredness or something. Maybe that could be your topic.
that's good. What about you, Goldsby?
You know what I've been thinking about a lot is the idea of like proper integration and like how to realize all these things that are going on that I don't like and don't want to give a lot of power to, but ought to somehow metabolize and integrate, or else I'm not encountering the world in the most real way. And I think I'm struggling with like allowing certain things to come in and not completely change me, but then also not just completely ignoring it. So something about that like idea of integrating the good and the bad and realizing the world in front of me is kind of what I've been thinking about.
Yeah, that's good. You got 2 cents, Mark?
I'm trying to just figure out what she just said.
Me too, Mark. Me too, Mark.
Playing without getting too dirty.
Well, I kind of like Grim Grizz's topic, the Holy Spirit and you.
Yeah, without a doubt. He's always got wise words. That's why he's
Yeah.
the general.
I like the idea of like the personal. Where does the Holy Spirit and the personal connect, and how does that connect to my relationship with the world? Something like that. Because I don't really think much about those the like the Trinity in terms of the 3 parts in its names. I just kind of have an experience with God. Like I don't really like try to have theological vivisection with this stuff, because for me oftentimes that seems to separate me. It drops me back into like a category of seriousness that that can be detrimental to my actual relationship with Trinity.
That's good. I like it.
So,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you. All right. I think I should go now. We got 2 minutes before it's 2 hours, and I need to clean up the toys and make my wife, because she's not expecting me to do that. So I kind of want to make her feel she's got a lot on her mind. Her father is very ill right now. If you guys want to do prayer, Ron, if you please pray for Anne's father, and for that family, her family, and for she's such a Anne is such a carrier of stability, and like she doesn't allow herself a lot of room to be emotional when life is happening, right? So because she kind of like buckles down and and becomes the matriarch for everybody around her. And so I'd like to pray for her to be able to have permission to not have to carry it all. And if you're looking to pray for me, help me. I'm looking for prayers on like how to be more an intuitive, gentle, and what would be the right word? An action-taking husband who is going to be there for her when we have to clean things up. And
Okay, so who's saying this prayer?
Whoever wants to do that. So I'm not interested. Praying online is kind of weird to me.
Well, I mean, praying is always weird.
Yeah. If you want to say the prayer, go ahead. Yeah, that'd be cool.
What about Brett?
Okay.
All right. As long as Chad's good with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for my friends tonight logging in and the ones in the chat and the ones that are going to see this video later if it exists. I want to thank you for my brother Chad, and I want to pray a hedge of protection around him and his wife as they're going through the difficult time. Uncertainty is never fun, and we don't like change. We don't like uncertainty. You know that. But we just pray that you are with him and with her through this process. We want to thank you for already being there in advance. And I pray for the silent prayers that are also in this chat and also on this stream. I want you to fulfill everything you can for us in your will, ultimately. We ask all of this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
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 Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day. Everybody sleep well. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Ed. Bye, y'all.